This story, I think, for me, is a story of black excellence. My name is Cormac Evans. I'm a proud Yorta man, and I'm the founder of Strong Brother, Strong Sister, and the co-founder of Ngarrimili. Everyone asks me what led me to do what I do today. What led me to Ngarrimili? So let's go back. My grandmother, a beautiful, staunch Yorta woman, had just given birth to a beautiful baby boy, a moment that any parent should be able to cherish for the rest of their lives. Sadly, that moment was interrupted upon by a racist and disgusting government policy known as the Assimilation Act. Trusting in the nurses at the hospital, Millie was given adoption papers and told they were release forms for the hospital. From that moment on, Millie and my father didn't see each other for around 35 years later. And shortly after that, she passed away. I never got to meet my grandmother. And these stories are far too common in many lives of us as First Nations people and the businesses that we support today. I dedicate everything I do to my grandmother Millie and my father and all the survivors and the people that we've lost from the stolen generation, from first colonisation, from deaths in custody and so much more. For those people who have protected our culture, our language, our communities and so much more for us to stand tall today. Fast forward, I'm about 23 years old. And trauma for me had finally set in. Trauma of racism in school, trauma of family violence, trauma of not having a sense of belonging or a true sense of identity. Trauma seeing the effects of drugs and alcohol and many other awful circumstances had finally erupted. That moment for me was probably the darkest times for me personally. Drugs, alcohol and suicide were only my visible options out. Thankfully, I had incredible people to be able to support me to get out of that moment for the rest of my life. 4 years later, I found my true calling. I paddled from Papua New Guinea back to Cape York, Australia in a dugout canoe that you can see on the screen with a couple of friends of mine, which we made the canoes on an island called Saibai Island. We hunted and gathered all our food. That trip, we raised enough money to start our first organisation, Strong Brother, Strong Sister, that supports Aboriginal young people and children across Victoria. And today has supported over 2,000 young people and children. That journey for me was a journey of learning. It was starting a business and learning the gaps in support for First Nations businesses, which led us to founding Ngarrimili in 2019. Ngarrimili, a Wadawurrung word meaning to dance. It's a recognition of First Nations people having over 80,000 years of excellence running through our veins, through ceremony, agriculture, language, survival. We were born entrepreneurs. Ngarrimili is the missing links in the startup, entrepreneur and business space for First Nations businesses and people. Ngarrimili is Aboriginal created, Aboriginal led, and a DGR1 status charity that has engaged over 650 aspiring, current and long-time businesses since we were founded. I'll share a quick story with you of one of our success stories out of those 650 individuals. A female Aboriginal mother looking to start her own business, having a traumatic background and suffering from poor mental health and wellbeing, and a range of other circumstances. Ngarrimili was able to provide key supports that included support for health and wellbeing, support for business registration and setup, e-commerce platforms, and a range of other supports. Through our one-on-one personally tailored support, 10 weeks later, that individual was able to make a profit of over $200,000. And that's just one of the stories. The key factor in our success is our personally tailored support for each individual founder. We focus on their social, emotional health and wellbeing and provide personally tailored supports that suit the individual's journey to assist them to achieve the best possible outcomes in their business world, but also for their community. With a strong sense of belonging, a strong sense of identity, and a strong heart and soul comes success. First Nations people start their business around 20 steps behind any non-First Nations business. Racism, discrimination, lower life expectancies, transgenerational grief, loss and trauma are just a range of barriers that our businesses have to overcome to just have an equal playing field at the starting line of actually just starting their business. Our role at Ngarrimili is to walk alongside the First Nations people to be able to excel their journey, smash those barriers out of the way completely and ensure long-term sustainable outcomes with self-determination that can contribute to a prosperous Black economy. And the way of our support has been able to support many businesses to make ginormous profits between $5,000 to $200,000 and even more. We've injected over 81% of our turnover back into the First Nations economy through contracting First Nations business leaders to be able to provide the supports of mentoring to our future businesses. We've created 4 co-working spaces with partnerships with a range of different organisations. Currently today, we've supported 160 plus Aboriginal businesses and Torres Strait Islander businesses, one-on-one, personally tailored support. 70% of those are women, 30% are non-binary community members, and around 50% are under the age of 30 years old. This, for us, as a community, creates a sustainable ecosystem of excellence. So, how can you support economic prosperities for First Nations businesses and communities? We know that $3,000 of support got that business I just spoke about a profit of over $200,000 in just 10 weeks. We want to be able to support 20 businesses, and we want to go national. There's a huge calling for Ngarrimili across Australia, and we need to fill that gap. So we would love to be able to raise $60,000 or more to be able to continue on our journey to support excellence in the First Nations economy space. Thank you.